Mother demands I invite my golden child sister, who had an affair with my husband and is now married to I was 25 at a corporate networking event. He was the kind of guy who could charm anyone in the room, was quick-witted, confident, and magnetic. At the time I was focused on building my career and wasn't particularly looking for a relationship, but Jake swept me off my feet, and we started dating and things moved quickly. Within a year we were living together, and by the end of the second year he proposed. I was smitten. We married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by family and friends. I thought I had found my forever partner. We talked about buying a home, starting a family and building a future together. For the first few years, things seemed perfect. Jake was attentive and affectionate and supportive. Looking back, I now see the subtle red flags. He thrived on attention and had a knack for deflecting blame when things didn't go his way. I wrote it off as part of his charm, never imagining how deep his selfishness ran. Lily is my younger sister. She's 4 years younger than me and has always been the star of the family. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the one who got good grades, followed the rules, and helped around the house. Lily was the fun one who could light up a room and make everyone laugh. My parents adored her, and their favoritism was painfully obvious. If I brought home an A, my parents would nod and say, "Good job." If Lily brought home a B, they'd act like she'd cured cancer. When I graduated college, they barely acknowledged it, but when Lily got into a local community college, they threw her a party. Family vacations revolved around her schedule, and when she needed money, they found it, even if it meant saying no to me. Despite this, I tried to be a good sister. I tutored Lily when she struggled in school, comforted her through breakups, and celebrated her achievements. I thought we had a close bond. I didn't realize how one-sided it was until everything fell apart. 5 years into my marriage, Jake started to change. He became distant, spending more time on his phone and staying late at work. He was still charming, but there was a coldness in his affection that I couldn't ignore. When I asked him about, he brushed me off, saying I was being paranoid. Then came the day that changed. I came home early from work, hoping to surprise him with dinner. Instead, I found Lily there. I froze, unable to process what I was seeing. Jake stammered something about it not meaning anything while Lily sat there wrapped in a sheet, looking guilty but not remorseful. I didn't yell or cry. I simply turned around, grabbed a bag, and left. It felt like my entire world had been ripped out from under me. When I told my parents what had happened, I expected outraged on my behalf. I thought they'd be furious at Lily and Jake for their betrayal. Instead, my mother sighed and said, "Maybe this is for the best. Jake and Lily seems to have a strong connection." With my father added, "Yeah, don't you think you never suited together?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They weren't angry at Lily. They weren't heartbroken for me. They were already rationalizing her behavior, acting as if my pain was a minor inconvenience compared to Lily's happiness. It felt like I didn't matter to them. I filed for divorce immediately. Jake tried to apologize, but his words felt empty. Lily sent me a single text. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I hope you can forgive me someday." Her for destroying my marriage, for betraying me in the worst way possible. I blocked her and went no contact with my parents, however, refused to respect my boundaries. They constantly pushed me to forgive and forget, saying family is family, and you'll regret cutting her out someday. My mother even said it's not like they plan to hurt you, with these things just happen. Their dismissiveness was like a second betrayal. In the months after the divorces were some of the hardest of my life. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and utterly alone. Therapy became my lifeline. It helped me process not just the betrayal but also the years of feeling like an afterthought in my own family. Slowly I began to rebuild. I threw myself into work, took up running to clear my mind, and reconnected with friends who became my true support system. Little by little I started to feel like myself again. 2 years after the divorce, I met Chris, through mutual friends. He wasn't flashy or overly charming like Jake. He was kind, steady, and genuine. From the beginning he treated me with a level of respect and care that I hadn't realized I was missing in my first marriage. Our relationship grew slowly, which was exactly what I needed. Chris didn't try to fix me or rush me. He simply supported me and gave me the space to heal. When he proposed last year, I said yes, without hesitation. For the first time in years, I felt like I can trust someone again. Planning our wedding was one of the happiest times of my life until my parents got involved from the start. They pressured me to invite Lily and Jake. My mother argued it'll show everyone you've moved on, and people will talk if Lily isn't there. I stood firm there. Not welcome. I told her this day is about me and Chris, not them. My parents were furious. My mother accused me of being bitter and immature, but I refused to go. The wedding day started beautifully. Chris and I exchanged vows in front of friends and family who truly cared about us. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy. But then came the reception and my mother's toast. She stood up, glass in hand, and said, "I'm so proud of both my daughters today. One daughter is celebrating her beautiful marriage and the other is celebrating the upcoming birth of her baby girl." The room fell silent. My mother had just hijacked my wedding to celebrate Lily and revealed for the first time that Lily was pregnant with Jake's child. I hadn't even known she was expecting, and now my mother had turned my wedding into a platform for their new family. After the toast, I pulled my mother aside and told her she needed to leave. She immediately started crying, accusing me of being heartless and unforgiving. She claimed she was just celebrating both daughters and couldn't understand why I was upset when I refused to back down. She caused a scene, yelling, crying, and accusing me of ruining the family. Chris stepped in and calmly escorted her out, but the damage was done. What should have been the happiest day of my life was now overshadowed by her selfishness. Since the wedding, my mother's been playing the victim. She's been telling family members that I kicked her out for no reason and accusing me of tearing the family apart. My father has taken her side, saying I need to let go of the past and focus on healing and not to be so jealous of my younger sister. I've gone no contact with both of them. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was I wrong to kick my mother out of my wedding? Wow, Opie's mother's behavior is absolutely appalling. Not only did she try to pressure Opie into inviting the two people who caused Opie immense pain, but she also used Op's wedding as a stage to celebrate their new family. Opie has done nothing wrong by setting boundaries and standing up for herself. Honestly, she should have done it ages ago. Op's parents and sister have shown time and again that they don't respect or value Op, and Op has every right to protect her peace. Good on Op for finally cutting them out and focusing on the future with their husband. And now let's hear the community's opinion, not the a-hole. I can't even imagine the level of betrayal you've experienced, not just from Jake and Lily, but also from your parents. It's bad enough that they dismissed your pain after the affair, but to make your wedding about Lily and her pregnancy is beyond cruel. You're not heartless for standing your ground, you're protecting yourself. It sounds like you've worked so hard to rebuild your life and you shouldn't feel guilty for removing toxic people from it. Your happiness matters. Not the a-hole. Your mother was completely out of line. Her toast wasn't about celebrating both daughters, it was about prioritizing Lily and her choices again while disregarding you. She's clearly chosen sides and, unfortunately, it's not yours. Your parents' behavior is toxic, and their lack of support shows how little they value your well-being. You've already given them more grace than they deserve. Stay strong, and don't let them guilt you into second-guessing yourself. Guessing yourself, not the a-hole. Your mother's actions were disgusting, full stop. She hijacked your wedding to talk about Lily and Jake as if what they did to you wasn't already unforgivable, then she threw a tantrum when called out. That's on her, not you. Honestly, going no contact sounds like the healthiest thing you can do. Your family's lack of respect is staggering, and you owe them nothing. Focus on your marriage and the life you're building with Chris. You deserve happiness and peace, not their drama. My parents started a privately held company over 35 years ago. They have been divorced for half of that, would accept a buyout from the other because both loved the company they had built. They had the same vision on growing it and both had their strengths in business, so they stayed in business partners after the divorce. They stayed out of each other's way, but with their vision, the company has thrived. They both got remarried with prenups and moved on. Dad remarried a lady with a daughter named Jane. More on her in a minute. I have a brother, and he was groomed from a very young age to take over the business. He started going into the office as a kid with our parents when he was 16. He started working for the company officially. He has the same passion for the business that my parents did. He now runs the company. As a teenager, I had no interest in learning about the business and wanted to hang out with my friends and travel. The plan is when I graduate college I will join him, and he will mentor me like our parents mentored him. My dad, because of health reasons, decided to retire, and when he did, he signed over his share of the company over to my brother and I. Unfortunately, he did not get to enjoy his retirement for a very long. When he passed away, I knew it was coming. But it was still a major shock. His stepdaughter Jane started interning for the company when she was in college and got a degree in business. Dad did not mentor her like my brother, but he always encouraged her. He paid for her college and living expenses, and she had a job waiting for her upon graduation. Jane seemed to be very hurt and took it personally when Dad did not leave her any of his shares in the business, and I got half his shares when I was not even involved in the company. It's been simmering for a while because she came to my brother and me and asked for a 10% share. It left us speechless. My brother was very harsh and told her off, and she was in tears by the time he was done with her. She said that I have not contributed anything to the company, and she is right. I have not told her I did not have to contribute anything to the company to own a piece of it since it was my birthright. My brother pointed out to her that she had not made any significant contributions to the company that would warrant her owning a piece of it, but she still drew a large salary and should be happy with that. He then reminded her that her position was handed to her by our dad, and in any other company she would have started at an entry-level position. My stepmom was very upset when she found out this happened, and we made her daughter feel less than and not a true member of the family. She even went as far as to ask that we give Jane a 2% share. Jane and stepmom think I am, and I have been thinking about what Jane said. Inheriting part of the company is a harsh reality Jane needs to deal with. But at the end of the day, I feel like it is my birthright. Am I being entitled, or is Jane being entitled? Most asked questions. First off, my gender: I am a 20-year-old female. My brother is 31. Jane is 24. Dad has been in Jane's life since she was 11, and our parents got married when she was around 13ish. Her father is in the picture, and they have a good relationship. She considered my dad to be a father figure because she called him dad. My dad loved her a lot, and I think considered her a daughter. He wanted the best for her. My brother and I never considered Jane's mom to be a mother figure and always called her by her first name, Jane, and I never had a sibling relationship, and we have had some arguments over the years. For the most part, the age difference could have a lot to do with it. Jane's mom tried to force a sibling relationship, but Dad put a stop to that because that kind of BS always ends in disaster. As far as my brother being harsh when she asked for 10% of the company, I should have put this in before, But Jane told us that she should have been given an equal share of the company and should be running it with my brother. That is when he blasted her and told her some harsh truths that she did not want to hear and made her cry. She loves to point out how I am not part of the business and never contributed anything to it, but she does not like to hear the same thing when it's pointed back at her. She got her job because of my dad, and that was the only reason. He also told her that I would be running the company with him when I was ready and that she could not compete with me, and she needed to stop because it was getting old. That is what went down. It was mentioned a few times, but my brother does plan to fire her and is giving her a 6-month severance. He does not trust her since she had made her ambitions demand very clear. I hope I covered everything. Not the a-hole. They had prenups. End of story. Stepmom knew from the beginning of what she was entitled to as well as her daughter. Not the a-hole. No one is entitled to any inheritance that the deceased did not leave for that person. Your father had a will, and he had already turned the company over to you and your brother before he passed away. There were no shares to be left to her. I'm not sure the reason for you both being so harsh when she asked like she asked. And your brother went off. So here. Tell me you're entitled without actually telling me you're entitled. It's my birthright. Yikes. That being said, if your dad wanted Jane to have a share he would have given her one. Of course he also could have given no one share, sold his half and blown all the money on himself. That would have been his right. He didn't have to leave it to you and your brother. He could have made you buy him out and that also would have been fair. So stop with the birthright nonsense. My mom and dad divorced 13 years ago. My dad destroyed my mom. He left her heartbroken, and after all the time it took her to recover, even her implicitly with violence to get her to sign the divorce because he wanted to remarry, he did and never paid my mom any of the alimony that was required by law. Also a lot of backstory. My dad was a heavy drinker. My mom was the one who gave him the push and let him borrow money to start his own business. Bottom line was it always seemed it was my mom who was keeping everything afloat. Fast forward to now, my dad is doing poorly with money, and coincidentally, I don't know if I want to believe it's all because of money, decides that he loves my mom again. He comes, gives this speech of how much he loves her, and my mom rolls out the red carpet. He's back in our lives, this without even a conversation to us, their children, about them getting back together. They just suddenly start showing up to events together, holding hands, kissing. I'm not asking them to get my permission first. I just think a conversation with your children would be common courtesy. This is before he's divorced his new wife. It's like her memory got erased of all the things he did. Everyone in my family is welcoming him back like nothing happened, like he didn't destroy and my mom, like he's not still married. I refuse. I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not going to have my daughter around them making her think that being a mistress is normal. I'm not going to play happy family when my dad broke it, and he won't even work to repair it. He just shows up and expects everyone to be okay with it. Lately, they've been guilting me into not go to family events, but I just don't want to be around it. They're saying I'm overreacting and going over the top. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Let your mom know he's willing to cheat on his current wife. He will do the same to her. She isn't special. Not the a-hole. It's amazing how many times I talk about self-respect and dignity. Your mom has none. I mean, even if she's religious, it's not like they are just separated. They are divorced. I agree with the fact that at the very least they need to acknowledge you and your siblings, try to explain, putting things in perspective. But then again, your dad isn't exactly a contender for Dad of the Year, and unfortunately, your mom seems way too infatuated with him again. Not the a-hole for me. Not the a-hole. Your father's actions did not affect only your mother. It happened to you and your siblings too. He broke your heart too. Your mother gets to decide what she does with her heart, and so do you. In the end you will likely be proven right, and hopefully your mother will see that before he finds someone else and leaves her after bleeding her dry of her money. For context, my sister, female, 19, and I, female, 21. My sister texted me randomly one day telling me she didn't want me to be her maid of honor anymore because I am a heavy W smoker and someone who was part of her wedding is highly allergic, and she didn't want them getting sick because of me. My sister didn't ask me to stop smoking maybe a month before I would have because it's my sister's wedding, and she didn't offer any other alternative other than I would not be her maid of honor or even a bridesmaid. I was having a enough day as it is, and I texted her back. If you didn't want me to be a part of your wedding, you could have simply said that. I ignored whatever message she sent after that and started to drive. In a 15-minute span she proceeded to have her boyfriend, who doesn't have my number because I don't know him, text me and say she isn't lying about the girl being allergic and that I shouldn't be upset. My sister proceeded to text me again after I ignored her first message back, and she made the rude comment about how my girlfriend has me on a short leash and how I won't even talk to her. She was essentially blaming my girlfriend for me not texting her back right away, although I was driving. Now I snap back at her about how she needed to mind her own business and how my girlfriend had nothing to do with what she and I were talking about because we were talking about me not being her maid of honor and not my relationship. She proceeded to talk all this mess about my relationship and then blamed me for arguing back with her. We ended our argument on terms where neither wants to speak to the other, and I wasn't even going to go to her wedding anymore. Fast forward to me talking to my two older brothers about a month later, and they asked me why I haven't apologized to our stepsister. I asked them why I would apologize when she was the one who started it all with her unnecessary comments about my relationship. They were confused, and when I showed them the text messages they told me that she had lied and told everyone that I refused to stop smoking and that I was the one making the hurtful comments about her relationship. Now I have my dad and her mom asking if I've apologized, and I continuously tell them no, I will not, and I refuse to even see her. This isn't the first time she's lied to our family about an argument we've had. It's just the first time it's something this big, and I didn't let it slide. She's tried texting me to talk, but why should I talk to her when she's making it out like I'm the bad guy? Am I the a-hole for not trying to talk this out? Edit. I have been helping her plan the wedding since she got engaged, so about a year now. Her setup budget, where she'd have it, and how much food, so for me to not even have a part in her wedding was extremely hurtful. I was actively helping her out, and she would often call me simply to cry about how her boyfriend liked pretty girls on TikTok. So when she hit at my relationship, I felt she was projecting, and as I said, I was having a day. The rest of our messages consisted of her literally just bashing my relationship and me trying to defend it. She is very used to getting her own way and throwing fits when it doesn't happen, so her lying to our family wasn't a big surprise to me. It just hurts that our family is trying to side more with her, although she is the one who lied. Not the a-hole. Disinviting you from the wedding party instead of asking you if you would consider abstaining is bad enough immediately. Blaming your reaction on your significant other is worse. Lying to your family about what was said is worse, and it sounds like that's a baseline pattern of behavior for her, so it's unlikely to change. If you wanted to give her a chance, you could consider talking to her if she walks back the lie to your parents and explains that she needs to apologize to you. I, 28, female, am getting married in a few months, but because I'm very busy abroad during summer months, I'm organizing everything now. I just hired my wedding photographer and finalized the plan for the day. We are not actually having a wedding, just a celebratory dinner the day after the actual ceremony with immediate family. This includes me, my mom and stepdad, 2 stepbrothers, and their partners, dad and his wife, and my aunt from my side, and husband, his parents and his sisters and their partners from his. It's important to note I despise having my picture taken. I have planned a very specific set of photographs and a very specific time for them at the drinks reception before dinner, so that no more time will be spent on it than absolutely necessary. The planned photos are of me and my husband. With my parents, me with my parents, and mom, me with dad, same as above. For husband, me with dad, and aunt, me, husband, and both sets of parents. I have also asked my mom and stepdad to arrive earlier so that I could get a picture with me. Me, my mom, and my stepdad has been a close family member and friend to me and has been a great support in my relationship, so I would like a photo of me, him, and my mom together, but I don't want to do this in front of my dad, because it will cause drama, and my dad doesn't know that I have planned this. After this, we have said that anyone who wants a photo can have one taken, and we will pay for the prints, but I will only be participating in the aforementioned staged photographs. The photographer will take candids. Throughout the dinner, we sent this plan out as part of our invitations, and everyone was fine with it except my dad. When he was told this, my dad was immediately upset that his wife will not be included in the photographs. I told him that he and she can have their photograph taken together, but he was insistent on there being one of the 3 of us. I said no, as I've planned the photographs that way specifically so that everyone has the copies of photos that I feel are appropriate. I would hate to walk into his house and there be a photograph of me, his wife, and him on his well. She is not my mother and will play no part in my wedding, and frankly I don't like her. I said, if he wants a picture of me on my wedding day, he can choose any number of the pictures I've planned, but his wife will not be shoehorned into my life. My husband backs me, but my stepdad and mom think I'm being unfair considering I don't have to display the photo and my dad can keep it as a private memento. However, I don't see why it's important for him to have a picture he knows I was miserable taking on a day that is supposed to be a happy occasion, and I think he's thrown a tantrum for no reason. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It seems like you and your stepmother doesn't really have a relationship, so I can understand why you wouldn't want a picture with her. Not the a-hole, but today's Petty Crocker recipe would be to agree to one picture with the 3 of you and just make an absolutely awful face during it.